He walked quietly across the lobby, head bowed low, pushing the janitor's cart as if apologizing. Just for existing. In a skyscraper built of glass and ambition, where million-dollar contracts were signed behind soundproof doors, there was a man nobody noticed. A man invisible in a world of brilliance. And yet, it was him, Jordan Blackwell, who did the impossible. Because the little girl everyone in the building feared, the daughter of billionaire Eleanor Pierce, was untouchable. That girl, Tessa Pierce, had once been the smile of the entire empire. Now, there was only silence. 8 nannies had come and gone. Therapists had given up. She screamed when treated with kindness, cried when anyone touched her, and locked her heart behind invisible walls. Until one seemingly ordinary afternoon. Jordan was mopping the marble floor near the elevators when he heard a soft sob behind a column. He stopped, set the mop aside, and walked closer. Then he knelt down, slowly, carefully, as if afraid to break something fragile. From the pocket of his shirt, he took out a small object, something that looked ordinary, but somehow made the whole world stand still for a few seconds. And then, miraculously, the girl stopped crying. No one in the company knew what had just happened. No one knew that the man pushing the cleaning cart had once been a wonderful father, until he lost everything. And Eleanor Pierce, the powerful woman she was about to witness something that would change her life forever. If you believe that small acts of kindness can save an entire world, hit subscribe so you won't miss the next part of the story. Because tell me, a man who's lost everything, can he really save a child who's losing herself? On the 30th floor of Pierce Global Dynamics, in the heart of Manhattan, the glass walls reflected the light of the entire city below. In a silence so deep she could hear her own heartbeat, Eleanor Pierce stood motionless, eyes fixed on her computer screen. On it was the 9th psychological report about her daughter, Isabel. Patient completely rejects strangers. Severe PTSD symptoms. No response to cognitive behavioral therapy. No response to play therapy. Psychiatric intervention recommended. Suggestion: short-term hospitalization. Eleanor slowly closed the laptop. Number: not again. At 41, the CEO of a $3.2 billion biotech empire, a woman who commanded 2,000 employees, negotiated with governments, and made decisions that affected millions of lives, now stood powerless before a 7-year-old child. Since the day Richard Pierce, her husband, her daughter's father, and the family's anchor, died in a plane crash 3 months ago, Isabel had become a shadow of herself. Those eyes, only 7 years old, carried a hollowness most adults would never dare to face. 3 months earlier, Isabel had been the light of this office. She ran into her mother's room holding a drawing made with crayons. "Mom! Look, I drew us. 3 people. You, Daddy, and me." Richard laughed, lifted his daughter into his arms, and spun her around. "Do you know your mom is the smartest woman in the world?" "I know," Isabel giggled, "but Daddy's the best." Their laughter filled the room back then. Now only the hum of the air conditioner remained, and the cold scent of printer paper. The framed photos still sat neatly on the shelf, but the life inside them was gone. Eleanor opened the special room designed just for Isabel, filled with toys, sketchbooks, warm lights, and cameras in every corner. In the far corner, Isabel sat curled up, clutching an old doll, the last gift from her father. "Isabel, sweetheart," Eleanor knelt down, trying to keep her voice calm. "Today we're going to meet a new doctor. She's very nice. "No!" The scream tore through the room. "I don't want any doctors. I want Daddy back." The doll flew across the room and hit the door. Eleanor froze, her hands trembling. A woman who could run a global empire didn't know how to hold her own daughter. The child had built a wall around herself, and no matter how powerful Eleanor Pierce was, she couldn't find the door in. For 3 months, she had tried everything. The first nanny, Mrs. Martha, with 25 years of experience, quit after 4 days, when Isabel locked her out on the balcony for 2 hours. The second, Lisa, a specialist in caring for children with special needs, left after 6 days, when she woke up to find a handful of her hair had been cut off. From the third to the 8th nanny, none lasted more than a week. And the therapists? Dr. Morrison from Yale. Isabel stayed silent through 5 sessions. Dr. Chen, a PTSD expert. Isabel screamed until she turned blue the moment she walked in. Every professional after that wrote the same line in their reports. This child needs time. Or a miracle. But Eleanor Pierce no longer believed in miracles. Her phone rang. The voice of the HR director came through, cautious yet tense. "Mrs. Pierce, the board is becoming concerned about your personal situation. Your recent absences from meetings could affect—" "I know," Eleanor cut her off. "I'll handle it." But the truth was, she didn't know where to start. 3 flights canceled. 2 key contracts rejected. Company stock down more than 12%. And investors had started asking, is this CEO still capable of running her company? Yet the woman who once controlled the world was losing the one thing she could never replace. Her daughter. That night, Eleanor sat alone in her office. Outside, the city gleamed like molten gold reflected on the cold glass. On her desk lay an old folder, wedding photos of her and Richard, pictures of baby Isabel, snapshots from their summer trip to Italy last year. Richard's voice echoed in her memory, deep, warm, gentle, like a distant melody. "You know, Eleanor, you can be better than anyone else, but what I love most about you is how you love Isabel, without ever needing to prove it." She smiled faintly, a trembling smile, like a crack in flawless glass. Because now she was failing at both, being a great CEO and being a whole mother. When the first tear in 3 months fell onto the desk, the lights of Manhattan shimmered in her eyes, as if the entire city were crying with Eleanor Pierce. 6 a.m. The old apartment complex in Queens still lay shrouded in damp, cold darkness. The alarm had rung at 5:30. Jordan Blackwell shut it off and sat up without turning on the light. He was used to the dark. It had been his only loyal companion for years. 38 years old, but he looked at least 10 years older. Silver streaks touched both temples. His deep brown eyes held lines etched by sleepless nights and long years of loneliness. He walked into the next room, a small, empty space, just a single bed, a desk, and photos taped to the wall. Pictures of a little boy, straw blonde hair, a missing front tooth, blue eyes clear as the June sky. Ethan. Jordan stood still for a few seconds, as if reluctant to leave. Every morning he stopped before the largest photo, Ethan smiling, hugging a stuffed dog. "Good night, my little boy," he whispered, even though the sun was just rising. Then he quietly closed the door, carrying that familiar weight in his chest, a heaviness that had never gone away. 6 years earlier, the small apartment had once been full of laughter. "Daddy! Look, I built a castle!" 5-year-old Ethan sat in the middle of the floor, surrounded by a riot of colorful Lego bricks. The castle leaned slightly, ready to topple, but in his eyes it was a whole kingdom. Jordan knelt down, smiling, and pulled his son into his arms. "It's beautiful. My boy's a genius architect. You mean it, Dad?" "I mean it. You can be anything you want. Then I'll build a castle for you to live in." "For me? Why's that?" "Because you deserve it. You're the best dad in the world." Jordan said nothing more. He just hugged his son tightly, fighting back tears. He didn't know it would be the last time he heard that laugh. Now, in the packed subway car, Jordan sat silently in a corner, wearing his navy blue janitor uniform. The Clean Corp Solutions logo on his chest was frayed. Around him, everyone stared at their phones. No one looked at anyone else. He opened his worn canvas bag, a cold lunchbox, an apple, a small notebook, and a cloth pouch. Inside that pouch was his whole world. Handmade toys, a patched teddy bear, a felt rabbit, a tiny wooden car. Clumsy, imperfect. But every stitch and every carved edge carried the warmth of something money could never buy. Once, Jordan had been a preschool teacher at a small private school in Brooklyn. He loved that job. Loved the children. Loved how they saw the world through clear, innocent eyes. He was married to Sarah, a nurse at a children's hospital. They had Ethan, and though life was modest, their little home overflowed with laughter. Each night, when Sarah worked the night shift, Jordan would tell Ethan bedtime stories, not from books, but from his imagination. Once upon a time, there was a rabbit who couldn't hop. All the other rabbits laughed at him. But he didn't give up. He practiced every day, and one day he jumped higher than all the rest. Ethan tilted his head. "Dad, why didn't the rabbit give up?" "Because he knew a secret." "What secret?" "That what makes us special isn't what we're good at. It's that we never give up on our dreams." Ethan nodded, eyes sparkling. "Then I'll never give up either." Jordan laughed, ruffling his son's hair. He didn't know that was the last night he'd ever tell Ethan a story. The accident happened on a fall afternoon, leaves scattering across the road. Sarah was driving Ethan home from school. A truck lost control. A devastating crash at an intersection. Sarah survived, with wounds that would never truly heal. Ethan didn't. Jordan got the call while teaching. He bolted out of the classroom, ran like a madman to the hospital. His heart pounded like it was about to burst. When the doctor stepped out, one look in those sorrowful eyes told him everything. Jordan collapsed to the floor, screaming soundlessly. Sarah never forgave herself. "It's my fault. I wasn't paying attention. I killed our son." "No, Sarah," Jordan said, holding her trembling hand. "It was an accident." "No, I should have died instead." They tried to go on, but the little house was no longer a home. Every room was a nightmare. Jordan couldn't step into Ethan's room. Sarah couldn't bear to look at family photos. 6 months later, he woke to find a letter on the kitchen table. "Dear Jordan, I can't live with this pain anymore. Every day I see Ethan's face, hear his laughter, then realize it's just in my head. I'm not as strong as you. I'm sorry. I love you. But I have to go. Sarah." She left that night and never came back. Jordan searched everywhere, hospitals, relatives' homes, even mental health centers, but Sarah had vanished as if she'd never existed. He lost his son, then his wife, and after that, he slowly began to lose himself. He couldn't return to teaching. He couldn't look at children without seeing Ethan's face among them. He quit, sold the apartment, moved to Queens. In the years that followed, Jordan did everything: waiter, driver, mover, whatever paid the bills, until he found a job at Clean Corp, an outsourced janitorial company for corporate buildings. When the manager asked why he wanted the job, he answered simply, "Because no one notices the janitor." And I don't want to be seen anymore. But there was one thing Jordan never gave up. Every night after work, he sat alone under the weak yellow light.